Thank you for joining us on the Doula That podcast. Today's episode is an episode that was recorded on April 11th, 2023, which was the 1-year anniversary of the dismissal that Ravae and Denise experienced from DONA International. While it's being posted at the end of 2023, it's important to note that this conversation happened earlier in the year as a 1-year look back. So sit back, relax, enjoy the episode and the truth telling. In 2024, the truth is being told. Oh, this year, what this last year has been like for you, for me, and what it has meant like in our doula career. So it's been a year since you transitioned out of leadership with DONA International. And of course that happened abruptly and, it happened, without our knowledge or it wasn't the plan, right? The plan was to see it through till December and implement programs that benefited specifically Black birth workers, that we know translates to impacting and supporting Black mamas and dads and families and communities. So I know that was your heart, because I was there at the meetings where the agenda was set to highlight Black within DONA and to take those dollars that have been allocated to lots of other things. At least for last year, your goal was to really allocate and uplift Black birth workers, because we know the domino effect is it impacts the Black maternal health crisis. So tell me, what are your thoughts about like the transition? What has that been like for you?
It was painful. It was very, very harsh. It was, I trusted so much and I had such big hopes. So personally, it really affected my health. It just really, it knocked me down. It knocked me down. There was no easy way to say, just do one. No. This was really very, very, very home hitting for me. I had a lot of great hopes and things I wanted to do for the Black and Brown members of DONA. And I know they were looking for that. That's why they voted for the both of us, because they had such good hopes of the both of us and what we're capable of. And I took the word of my board that we all had these meetings and we agreed, this is the focus. This has never been the focus ever in the history of this organization. And we know what Black birth workers are going through. Let's be the organization to put the focus on Black birth workers and be the example. Well, that didn't happen. That went right out the window, even by some of our own fellow Black board members. So
right. All of it is so shocking, right? Because you're just reminding me that many of these votes of these initiatives to uplift Black birth workers and like financially and resource-wise were unanimous.
Yes, they were.
So like, of course you believed in your board, the sitting board, that like they believed in these things, like they said they believed in these things. And that's like such a shocker to me too. That was like, wait a minute.
It was really, really hard. And, it took me a while to come out of that. I fell into a little bit of depression. I was quiet. I was withdrawn. My son was concerned about me. It took me a little bit of time to get myself together, especially when I was really trying to also readily implement having a Black postpartum doula trainer, because I was a recipient of postpartum doula training from a white trainer. And I knew the impact of how that's so shortcoming. So I really, as a leader, I really wanted them to move forward as quickly as possible and to put up a Black postpartum doula trainer, because we had so much request, so much need. It would have been a win for the organization. And that got shot down just as quickly too. And I still cannot rationalize or begin to conceptualize the whys on so many of these things. So I just have to leave them alone, because it's out of my mental scope. It's out of my heart scope. It's just not who I am.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, to me, the immediate impact was like, wait, what? Because we had structured our year around this. And because I had done the leadership role within that organization, I knew what it would take. And so we were crafting our calendars, our family life, around the work that we were all committing to do. And so to have it like abruptly end was fairly disorienting. You know, I was on vacation,
Yeah.
planning to come back and wrap up like our calendaring for the year so that we could communicate with the membership in a way that we had never done before. So that the year can be clear for everyone, so that the agenda could be clear and everybody could get on board and rally around the work that you had planned for us to do last year. So it was quite shocking. You know, like I literally got home and was like, oh, I'm used to having a whole full days of meetings and no meetings. I would say I didn't fall into a depression. I fell into, first of all, I had lots of engagement from people. So it was interesting to see where people saw the opportunity and people were very positive and uplifting. I was busy also taking care of a family postpartum. So I think I just kind of, my life was full and busy, but less busy. And I felt relieved.
Yeah.
I felt relieved. I think the sadness kind of hit me later. It wasn't immediate, but I think in the immediate, I felt relieved.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. But I was prepared to stick out this dysfunction. I knew that it was dysfunctional, but I was prepared to stay in it and see if I could somehow make an impact for change. So I was prepared to stay in this very dysfunctional relationship with the hopes that things were going to change. And so it was, it was very, very harsh, but now the relief is there. And it's very liberating. It was a very deep lesson on personal, and relationships, and how much I contribute, how I contribute, where I contribute, to who I contribute to. And setting up those boundaries. It was really a big wake-up call.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It was fairly dysfunctional. And so for me, I had been in it for so many years that it was like familiar. And so it's funny now to look back and you're like calling me, you're like, so wait, what? I don't understand this. And I'm like, oh girl, okay.
Thank God I had you as my anchor. Otherwise, I would have been on somebody's bridge, okay? Because
for real.
You were really the anchor that held me down, because you knew what was coming. And you would often say to me, Denise, watch out for this. Denise, watch over here. And sure enough, there it was. It was like,
oh. You know what? It was through that experience that I realized, first of all, I realized I am very good at operating in dysfunction. And some of that probably is because I was a public defender, right? Like,
right.
I used to operate in a broken system. So you learn the workarounds, but you also learn how to be in the dysfunction. And so I think I learned how to be in that organization's dysfunction. And my energy was always the workaround. So you're right. I did a lot of like, okay, so let me tell you about him. Let me tell you about her. You got to have a strategy around this. It was a lot of that, because you're right. It was dysfunctional.
It really was. And I came in prepared to do the work, not realizing that it wasn't just my board I had to negate, but I also had to negate the management office, the managing company. And that in itself was like, what? But we're paying them. Oh no, but you got to jump through hoops. You got to appease them too. Because if they start to feel threatened, they could be an adversary. And that's exactly what happened.
It is. It took me a while to kind of understand, like, maybe what happened, because we still don't know what happened, right? What the information that people got to, like, formally, that's all we got to. So we're still a year later, like, we don't know. But I think you're right on the theory that it was clear that we had a plan to find maybe a company or a structure that was more honoring of who the organization was and didn't cost as much money. Maybe to partner with an organization or a business that looked like us, maybe a woman-led, Black-led, Brown-led kind of organization. And so it's clear that those conversations were not kept private, just to the board, even though it was a closed meeting, right? And that probably there was a lot of leveraging and support of the management company saying, hey, these women are threatening perhaps we don't, allegedly, let me be the lawyer. Okay. Allegedly, there was probably some suggestion that we were not operating in the best interest of the organization because we were looking for something that was a better fit fiscally, energetically, culturally. That might be a better fit. And if nothing else, I think we just needed to try something different, because what we had going was dysfunctional. It wasn't working.
Yep.
So anyway, it's, water under the bridge in a lot of ways, but it was, yeah, that was a wild ride that I was happy
to get off of.
To get off of. Yes.
Get off of it. Just get me out of here. Get me off of this, because I wasn't appreciated. I wasn't valued. I wasn't respected. No, and the bullying outside of the board from the members, from certain members, was terrible. Oh. And these are the people that they never bothered to get rid of, and they should have got rid of these people years ago. They should have never remained as part of the organization with the background of harm that they've committed over the years in this organization. They've been allowed to stay in their white privilege, and it really is going to be part of their detriment. It really is. It's part of
it already has been. I think it's interesting to be on the outside, right? Because I was on the inside for so long, and navigating the complaints and the feedback and the personalities. There's a lot of personalities involved on a mid-level leadership level. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you're like, this is an organization run by the trainers, right? That this is not like an autonomous body that's thinking about the balance between the members and then the people who directly financially benefit from this organization existing, right? Like, there's a lot of toxicity, and there's a lot of holding on to the past, like what we've done in the past. The sad part, and I feel like it's like a microcosm of what's happening in America, is your past is not so pretty. Your past is not equitable. Your past is not filled with like honoring Black and brown people who you taken what was happening naturally in their communities and monetized it and capitalized it. Leaning on your history is not really necessarily where you want to go and be, but it's what you know. And so I understand that there's fear in change. And unfortunately, those voices that were fear-filled and wanting to stay where they were very loud and were listened to. And those who were like catalysts for change, like you and I, were made to be wrong.
Yeah, DONA had outgrown so many things, but they kept them because they were familiar, they were safe, they were manipulative, and they were okay with that. And they did not want to change. They did not want to grow. They did not want to be the leader that they've had this moniker for so long. But when it came time to lead by example and show other doula organizations how the progress can be made, they didn't want to do that. Oh, I really wish things can go back to the way they were. When I hear white people say that, I cringe, because I'm like, oh, yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about, where you have the power and my people do not, obviously,
Yeah. Well, I had the distinct displeasure of having some non-American based trainers be very blatant about that, about like with me, and disrespectful. I keep all the receipts, so screenshots galore. But it's one of those things where you're like, is this a cultural thing? Or like, but racism and bias translates in all languages, okay? Like, I caught what was happening. And it's like, what do you do? Because you are in an international organization, you are a leader for everyone, you're there to be accountable to everyone. It was just like a huge challenge. What I want to say, I'm glad I had it. I'm glad that I had a chance to come back, because I had completed my presidential years and really offered an opportunity for change, a map, a blueprint, so to speak. And I only came back because you were in a position to be president. We were positioned with several other Black and brown women on the board. And it really sounded like we were ready to be radical and to be bold. I would say bold. So bold doula, to really follow your bold agenda, to like, let's just be unapologetic that this year we're going to focus on Black and Brown members. We're going to amplify them. We're going to identify them. We're going to support them. We're going to give them additional training. We're going to actually do the DEI initiatives that we said we were going to do back in 2020. We're going to put funding behind that. And we're going to have member meetings in Spanish. We're going to, you know, that we're going to honor these affinity groups, right? We're going to really focus on expanding educators amongst this organization who are Black, who are Spanish speaking. And we were just focusing on that. Like, let's just move boldly in those things. We were looking at our members who had disabilities to say, like, what are your needs? Finally ready to do some demographic surveys to say who's amongst us and what do they need. 1 year dedicated to doing those things would have been a game changer, like life changing. I was like, I'm on board. Yes. And then I knew what my job was to then take all that information going into the next year to layer it upon other affinity groups, other languages, other demographic groups that really need more of us, because we reflect the families that we supported. And right now our resources were limited to basically white privileged folks who speak English.
Very privileged,
right? Who speak English, and anybody else and everybody else has had to get in where they could fit in. And, you know, so I was excited to be coming in behind that. And yeah, to get that clipped was shocking and then relieving at the same.
You know, for me with this whole thing was the process of really, I was so inspired over the years of watching you work and watching all the things that you did with DONA and what you did for DONA as far as the pivot and really turning the ship around in the middle of the ocean. And if anybody has ever seen that on YouTube or anything, that's a hell of a thing to do, to literally turn an entire ship around. It's a big job. And you've got the current going against you. You got the wind going against you. You got a lot of things, but you managed to do it. And that's exactly what you did. So I was always so inspired about what you did, to the point that I said, you know what? I would really love to go ahead and continue the work that Ravae has done as leadership in DONA as a Black woman and really move this forward. So that was a motivation for me, because I benefited from the new web page, from the policies and protocols, and from, you know, seeing an example of what Black excellence looks like. I benefited from those things. So I wanted to go ahead and continue to do that work. So when it came time to go ahead and do the community doula work that you were asked to do, and when the board agreed and everything was moving forward, then all of a sudden it got pulled and everyone came to me and said, oh, well, your president, you fire her. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm here to do. And so, you know, one of the premises was, well, Denise is not safe for the organization, because I refused to fire you. I refused to break that contract that the organization had already agreed to. And I took massive amounts of bullying, phone calls, emails, text messages, all day long. You need to do your job. You're not doing your job as a president. And I said, I know exactly what my job is. This has already been signed. You cannot go ahead and breach this. And if you do breach it, then now it's going to go to legal and everything else, because that's out of my scope of president. You already agreed upon this. But they really, really tried their best to systematically steer me as leader into doing this against you. And I refused to do it. So I became the pariah, and that was it. And that's where everything really fell apart, because I refused to yield. And what DONA's organization and the white people in there didn't realize is Denise Bolds is in her 50s. She kind of knows how you middle-aged white women are thinking. And not to mention, she's for most of them, she's overeducated than you are. I have more education than many of those white women who are in DONA. And they were very, very intimidated by that, because I was completely unflapped by their white, you know, antics that they were doing. Because I grew up here in Hell's Kitchen. I grew up in an all-white Catholic neighborhood. You cannot tell me about these white people. I know them. So I was not moved by them. And when I called them on their stuff, oh my gosh, she said I'm right. Yeah, I said it, because you are. But when they wanted me to fire you and break the contract, all of a sudden I was to be leader, to do the dirty work. But when it came time for me to be leader, to implement these Black initiatives for birth workers, nobody could see the logistics in that. I was too aggressive. So that's where the hypocrisy came in. And I stood my ground. And to this day, I have no regrets in doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. I'm like, how did this all come about? Like, how did they decide to get rid of you and me? Like,
oh yeah, you because of the contract. They didn't want to fight with you with the contract, and me because
but they could have just terminated the contract. Like, I guess that's why I feel like it's like that horrible saying, "Why throw the baby out with the bathwater?" Like, or don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, it doesn't make sense. A contract is a contract. A lot of us are in business. When you just say, hey, this doesn't work for me, you terminate the contract. Just terminate it. They could have terminated it the way they ended up doing. What they didn't do, what they should have done, whether I stayed on the board or not. Like, I feel like the contract was not synonymous with my role on the board.
Not
like, if you decided, we don't want you to do the community doula program, we want to have somebody separate, then they could have terminated the contract, paid me out according to the terms, and I could have continued on with the board. Right. But instead, they mixed it with, intermingled it. And I have not held them accountable for what they owe me legally, legitimately. And I may or may not. I feel like they're a sinking ship and it doesn't matter. Ultimately, like, that's not really where I want to put my energy. But from time to time, I think about it because I'm entitled and it was a ironclad situation. They do owe me. It's very curious that they made the decision, not only are we not going to honor the contract, but we're also going to remove you from the board. And we're also not going to pay out the contract. All three together is actually what's shocking to me, because you can terminate the contract, pay me out, move on. That would have been totally one thing. And then removing me from the board, that would have been another. But to actually think you can get the benefit of my work and you don't owe me. Oh, okay. You tell me that you care about Black women. You tell me you listen to Black women, you honor. No, you're part of the problem. You're exactly part of the problem. I don't care how many letters you got behind your name, PhD, this, that, I stand for who. Let me tell you, I know the truth. And there were only a few individuals who actually sat around, made and voted and made that decision to dishonor this Black woman. Correct. Who gave you free labor
for years,
for many years. Who brought some of y'all to that table in the first daggone place, who trained you on how to be a board member when you had no home training.
No home training.
You decided that you weren't going to pay this Black woman money that is like you legitimately owe. Okay. So you can't tell me on any week, especially now during Black Maternal Health Week, that you care about Black women.
No, they cannot.
Okay, you can't speak that, because I'm gonna have to tell the truth on that. You don't even listen to folks who ain't in labor, who ain't vulnerable to you, to people where you have a contract with. You don't even listen to them. So if I'm in any kind of position vulnerable to you, no way. And to me, what people don't understand is you can't give what you don't have. Exactly. So you mean to tell me, because you don't honor Black women, but you're going to go and do a training and you think you're going to pass down that energy to your trainees, to doulas, that you're in your workshops. You think you're going to pass down energy that you won't even have to honor Black women, to listen to Black women, to respect Black women, to do good business, to be honest, to be ethical? You can't give what you don't have.
Can't give what you don't have. And, we had such great incentives that we were planning to make sure that the members had wonderful perks to being a member here at this organization. We were working collaboratively with outside organizations of resources on an EAP level for members.
I know, but that's okay. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it over in IPP. But
group insurance. Yeah. I mean, we had so many things that we were looking at to really move DONA forward, and it was like, no, we want things to stay the same. But what was really very,
let me say, these were legitimate member benefits.
They were
things that were specifically to enhance the lifestyle, the work environment, the skills of the members that are paying their money every month. Yep. And they're still saying, what do I get out of this other than saying I'm a DONA doula?
They still can't see the benefit of
We
paying
were
that.
talking about thinking about Weight Watchers collaborations,
Yep.
like corporate collaborations
Yep.
just for the member.
Discount codes on shopping and different things.
Legal support, tax
Yep.
support,
Tax support,
business support. Yeah.
support. We had all these things lined up. And once again, it just goes to show you that when you have Black women leading in white organizations, when we come in to do this work, there is a lot of fear and intimidation from the white people. What are they going to
Yeah.
do? What's
Yeah, they're very concerned because
I'm so afraid.
Yeah, we haven't done that
fear
before.
bullshit.
Yeah.
It's white fear. It's like like afraid of what? You should be afraid of these
Innovation.
Right. You should be
advancement.
afraid of hospitals that you're going to and supporting. You should be afraid that you're not even doing anything in your community in Ohio, for instance, that you could be helping and you're not doing. So, but there was this fear. Oh, I'm so afraid of Denise Bolds. Afraid of what? I'm here bringing you some services and innovation. I'm very well connected. I know a lot of people and a lot of things out here, and I wanted to bring it all towards this organization to really uplift coming out of a pandemic. And they just immediately got into this whole white fear mongering thing. And it really was like a Salem witch trial. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, a sociologist would take apart this entire thing and say, oh my God, this is really something. But it had to happen. It was a growth factor for me. It really opened my eyes up here as I'm going into my 60s. And I'm glad that I had to go through this very, 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 very hard lesson. It was very hard, but I'm glad I did. But the hardness, even before I was elected, there was such trepidation. They stalled on this election for so long. They did totally inaccurate and inappropriate things in my election. It was ridiculous. But, to say that you had two Black presidents and you basically threw them both out. These are two top doulas in the industry, and you threw them out. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't say very much for you. It really and truly.
Or it says a lot. It says a lot about, I feel like, again, this is the micro, the macro. America, like January 6th, you're talking about, we're holding on to our history. We're holding on. We're going back to what we used to be, what we used to have. That's exactly what they were saying. This is too much change. This is not what we want. We don't want to focus on this population. We want to keep doing this. And so I just feel like it was just like the micro of the macro. Just
like January 6th, you're right. And when you look at it today, now
the overthrow, it literally was like an overthrow. Had never happened before. It was violent. It was a surprise. And the members didn't even know. Like
it was
a small group of people. Yeah, but a small group of people made a decision for the whole organization and is still not being held accountable. Nope. Members don't know what their power are, where their powers lie. To hold them accountable, the members should have and could have gotten rid of the entire board. Like, if you're getting rid of them, something is going on. Let's get rid of all of y'all.
All the board has to go. Exactly. All the board should be going.
Which somebody did ask for. Somebody
did say, yes, a couple of doula trainers did say it, and it was shot down by the other bullies in the group. But, I was very deliberate in my calling out the organization as being a trainer-led. That's exactly what it is. It's not member-led at all. Not member-led when members still don't have any idea what's happening. And I'm the type of person in my life, if you were doing something better than what I could do, I would happily step aside and let you do it.
Exactly.
Happily let you step aside. But I've been gone now for a year. I served 111 days. And in being gone for a year, I have yet to see what is so better than Denise Bolds and Ravae Sinclair are leading. Wow. I still don't see it.
Well, and we know that there's a lot of stuff that can happen behind the scenes before it actually shows up in public. And, I had to adjust to being just the public, right? And so all of last year, seeing nothing, no emails, no updates, nothing of significance, even like getting to the end of the year and being like, is there going to be an election? Because like that came like the last 2 weeks of December. Like, that was so crazy. Me knowing how usually there's lots of conversations about things like the election in August and September and October. And so it felt like literally nothing was happening. And perhaps nothing was. But I noticed that somebody is serving president who was never elected by the members.
never elected. She
Tried
was
to run
never
twice.
elected. She lost
The
to
members
Black
did
women
not
twice.
elect her twice, and somehow she's in the role of president with no election.
No election.
No election. Somebody who was the certification director became president last year, was elevated to the president role. No understanding, no accountability.
No understanding, did not do her role to the fullest, did not do anything for the members. And once again, the members did not choose her. Didn't choose her.
So it's just interesting. And then to get the slate, and it's all like white women, old white women. And I was like, see?
They went.
And that's the evidence. Like, I'm not saying, I'm not
what the old stuff was.
Right. I'm not like, that's the evidence when I say, oh, you want to go back to the old, like to what DONA used to be. Well, look, like, just look at the evidence. Is there anything innovative happening? Anything new? Anything focused on people who aren't the majority? Like, you know, and then you give us a slate of like older white women, boom, right back. So
with no accountability. Last year, we were asking for an accountability factor of putting things on the calendar, good communication skills. These board members went crazy. Why do you want to know that? Why do I have to put my things on the calendar? So members can see what we're doing, so that there's
communication. People can set expectations. They can set their calendar for the whole year. We as volunteers, right? We were volunteers. We could set our calendar for the year, so things weren't happening last minute, and things could be well thought out and planned, and we could and well resourced. So anyway, yeah, it was just that whole, as we were making these plans to be a little, you know, to be innovative, and to realize now that they were plotting and planning against us while we were having meetings to create infrastructure and a calendar and newness within DONA.
Checking out sites for the in-person conference. I was on the road checking out hotel sites while they were planning to take my position from me.
Literally, you were in Philly doing a whole site visit.
Oh my God.
Video documentation, because they had said they were voting for an in-person conference in Philadelphia. You were doing the final walkthrough for DONA, for the organization. Meanwhile, during this entire time, they were planning to get rid of us. Or like we went to Montgomery. Right. We decided to sponsor the Mothers of Gynecology conference.
The first conference.
Yeah, their first conference. And we got DONA on board, you know, to sponsor it and be on the moniker, and brought people to the event. We're down at the event. Yep. And they were plotting and planning like to get rid of us. And even, you know, the person who became president was there backstabbing us like right in the moment. It's like, wow.
And turn around, and she was the guest speaker this year.
Well, I mean, I guess those are the perks. But it's just fascinating, right? Like, it's fascinating. I'm saying it's fascinating, but it's a little bit of it's a mind screw, if I can say it like that. Yeah. You know, and we both, you and I had like really different reactions because, you know, the light bulbs were going on. We were like, what happened? When could they have plotted this? And we're like, we were just traveling together. Yep. Oh, that's why she said, I have to have lunch with my mom, and no, I can't meet with you because my son is sick. Like the constant excuses and the resistance meeting with us. And that one.
Lies,
the lies, the deception. And like, these are the leaders now.
These are the leaders to me.
Now, you know me, having been a former trial attorney, I'm cool with adversarial scenarios, and I know how to be like respectful and play the rules. I would have respected this if you just said, like, we just really don't think you're good for the organization. I would have respected this as if, one, it had been brought to the members and there had been a whole conversation about it, because the members elected us. So if it's going to be an undoing, then and if it's that bad, then you should be able to clearly, concisely present it to the members and trust that they're probably going to vote us out. That would have been the right thing to do. It would have probably been terrible, like for us, like anybody who would have to have gone through that. That would be really embarrassing, right? But respectful. That probably is what the policy should have been, and the procedure should have been. And if it didn't exist, somebody should have said, let's be fair about this. if we're going to remove them, let's not do it in secret. Let's not do it without revealing the what and the why. Let's do it in a public way so that everybody understands why we're making this drastic, never done before thing. And we can make sure that this is a member-led organization.
Didn't happen.
Right, of course. And that's probably what should have happened. And that would have given us a chance to say why we were doing what we were doing, be confronted. Because even somebody who steals a candy bar in our court system, they're given a right to allocution. They're given an opportunity to say their piece, but they're also given the opportunity to hear what they are accused of, what wrong.
That's right.
And we weren't afforded any of that. No. So I think it's laughable to me when I hear like this is a member-led organization of volunteers. Well, you all had actually voted to get paid.
It was unanimous.
Plot twist.
Unanimous vote. Everybody on that board wanted to get some type of compensation for the amount of time
because it takes a lot.
It's a lot of time.
It's a lot of your personal time, your personal resources. And it is not even though you sign up, people are like, well, that's what you signed up for. You really have no idea what you're actually signing up for. It's hard to articulate. It is beyond a normal volunteer role, which we had talked about in the years. These should be paid roles. This is like you're doing staff work, which is what we were exploring, the shifting from a management company to maybe having our own staff, because it's such intricate, specific work to this unique organization.
Correct.
Really needed to return back to us having a staff. Yeah. I had talked with older past presidents, the founders, about this structure, because we hadn't too long before joining the management company did we have our own staff in Indiana. So it wasn't an unheard of thing, but it was starting to become a more relevant and plausible thing, and maybe necessary for us, cost saving, and also it would have given us more specific, specialized skills that we needed, and not general skills that were coming from these staffers from the management company. And so, like, to me, I could have explained all the things that that I was supportive of. But here's the reality. You as a president or president-elect, we're one vote. So none of the initiatives that were going to be pursued could have been done without the whole board, the majority saying yes. And everything that was put forward, there was almost nothing that you put forward around focusing on members and focusing on Black, Brown, and Spanish-speaking members for just that year. There was almost nothing that people said no to, including board members getting paid for their work. Because a lot of us were Black and Brown women taking time away from our businesses to focus on this important, influential organization.
Absolutely.
That was worth getting compensated for.
Absolutely. And when the board had decided, on accountability and who's actually doing the work, that our international director had to leave because they could not really show all these years what did they bring forth for the organization. That also was a unanimous vote to remove.
It was. That was absolutely, yeah. But here's the thing: it wasn't even about
this person.
But it wasn't about the person, and that's what I want to add. It wasn't about the person. It was this role. The way this role is set up, we're actually not getting out of it what we need. What we needed was every single person in every area focusing on international.
Yep.
That was what we had agreed to, so that it wasn't necessary for just one person to do that because it was too overwhelming. Understanding that if you're saying my job is to make sure that international is happening in communication, in certification, in education, in treasurer, like, all the places, that person would have to bop to 12, 13 other people to hold them accountable, to make sure international was being upheld. It's not practical. Instead, treasurer, you got to think about all your policies and practices about international. We can't just do things we shouldn't just do things in US dollars. That we need to think about where do we have our members, which is where the demographic survey would have come in. And so maybe we should be accepting other currencies. We kept hearing that from our Canadian members, the very ones who were disrespecting me, being racist, and fighting me. I'm here advocating like, hey, the very things that you're concerned about, I'm willing to address because that's legitimate.
Exactly.
I digress. So like making sure that every person, like the certification director, was focused on international as well as domestic.
That's what we
That
were.
the education director was focused on international as well as domestic. Like to me, it made sense. We presented it, and they decided as an entire board that yes, we're all going to take on the responsibility of international. And the fact that they tried to make that the issue, they tried to make that as an issue of why they got rid of us. And it wasn't the person who was in that role. I don't have anything to say against that person. It wasn't about the person. It was about the policy and the practice.
But the person didn't do their job. When it came time for conferences and stuff, it was always such a chore and an effort to pull in our international friends. And
right, but I contend they couldn't do their job. It was too overwhelming for one person. Right. That's my argument. I facts. So I'm going to give you that one. Facts.
That's true.
That the work wasn't getting done. But I also believe it was like, where do you even begin? It was the structure. The organization didn't give the proper structure for international to be addressed. So, but they seem to have it figured out. Good luck. I ain't seen nothing yet, but okay.
Still nothing from the international at all. But, you know, as far as the dollar conversion, dealing with other countries, we were working on all of those things, and that wasn't good enough. And, you know, I'm at a point in my life, well, if the effort and the work that I'm doing is not good enough, I will happily let somebody else go ahead and take it over, but just don't disrespect me. Plain and simple.
This
is not a career making or breaking position for me to be the president of DONA International. But at the same time, it's like I came in, I wanted to really do this work. I wanted to serve the members. I wanted to grow and move forward with the organization. I want to share my connections and move everything. And that just wasn't good enough. It just was not good enough. Now they're in a place of stagnation. Now they're in a place where we actually were back in 2018. And it's like,
perhaps you know what? And I can say that I know enough to know that oftentimes there's a ton of stuff happening behind the scenes before it actually comes to fruition. So stagnation, maybe it looks like it from the outside. If they want to know the truth, it looks like nothing's happening from the outside, and maybe there are things, maybe there's innovation, maybe all of that is coming forward. But if your members don't know, it's almost like we say, like in birth, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen.
And that's the other part that was very scary, that members were still asking for a plausible explanation, and they never got one. As far as why they never got any kind of clarity. They never got any kind of conversation. They never had a chance to heal and process from what happened. And it was just like, no, this is what we did and accept it, and that's it. I haven't seen minute meetings. I haven't seen minutes from meetings. I haven't seen reports. I haven't seen quarterly reports. The annual report was basically people's descriptions of their positions more than anything else.
And these are the documents that they were hounding us when we were in leadership. They were hounding us for. Where are the meeting minutes? Where are the meeting minutes? Again, these were the bullies that are in the trainer pool, looking to discredit us or catch us up. But now that we're not there, nobody was hounding. Now that they had the leaders in place that wouldn't change their ability to get compensated. Now that they had the leaders in place who were also trainers, getting all the money coming in from all these workshops. Now that they had the leaders in place that they wanted, they stopped rocking the boat.
They stopped. They got off the boat and they went on to something else.
They're on some other mode of transportation.
They're on something else. You know, they're on vacations and paying for their kids' weddings and all this other stuff.
Yeah, because we were threatening their livelihood for the greater good to say, hey, you need to contribute. Members aren't the focus. So I'm not surprised that there hasn't been this accountability, because once again, it's not a member-led organization. I don't care what they say. You not only when you dismiss the leadership that the members voted in, you didn't involve them in that. You're right. They didn't give them an explanation. They also did not cater to them. There were no additional member benefits. There was no additional member meetings or focus. There was no additional accountability. It was just back to business as usual. We got rid of those two people who are threatening our livelihood, who want us to do more with less, and now we're happy. And I think what's really fascinating, because I think some people live in really small worlds, they think that they did some harm to me or to you.
Oh, I
That they chopped
know.
us down to size. I'm like, girl, I'm so big. I'm big as this hair on my head, child. Like, please, please understand.
It wasn't always my dream to be a DONA trainer. It wasn't, because I've never been the one to fit into the mold of things. I've always been outside,
Yep.
very comfortable being the awkward outside person. But here I am now. What am I doing? My own training. I'm doing Black Women Do VBAC.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. So what has happened in the last year, my friend?
Well, what happened in the past year? My hair grew back. First of all, I grew my hair back. Yep. And things have just looked up for us nonstop. You and I have been calling each other. Guess what? Guess what opportunity I got? Guess what call? Guess what happened? So many things have blown up since we basically gracefully left the situation that we were not wanted in. Plain and simple. We were not wanted there, and we left, and boom, all of these other things are happening. I started up another organization, Black Women Do VBAC. I'm training doulas around the nation. I'm getting ready to do the parent model. I'm doing high risk training for doulas. I'm doing so much work here, and it's just been amazing. Not to mention IBCLC work, not to mention still doing my doula practice. I haven't stopped working since this whole thing left.
You sure haven't. You've been like the Energizer Bunny. I'm looking at you. I'm like, girl, I got to lay down. Like, good luck with that. But yeah, I mean, that's why I say, like, it was a freeing. Like, for me, like I said, initially there was no depression about it at all. I was just like, whoop, child.
Oh, I was disappointed. I wanted to do this work.
I know you did. But you know, the whole time I kept saying, Denise, this is not my president year. Like, I'm happy to do these meetings with you, but I'm just in the background.
Girl, you were like, Denise, you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
And I wanted you to be able to do it. And I wanted to, and I didn't want to get pulled in at the level that I was, not knowing now we can look back and say, oh, the intensity of it was because they were backstabbing and manipulating.
Oh yeah.
That was the pressure. Even though we didn't know what was happening, I don't think either one of us could have dreamt that they were working to get rid of us. It was a lot of pull and tension. So we did understand that. So because the pressure was so big at the end, getting released and like immediately coming back stateside like a few days after. And yeah, because I was on at the beach.
Right. You were on the beach, best life. What?
And my luxury 5-star resort vacation with my 2 best friends. When I came back, I was free of like, oh, my entire calendar opened up.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, oh my God, it had taken over. It's like, how do you run an agency? How do you run a business? How do you take care of yourself when like literally my calendar was full of volunteer meetings. Right? We were really running the organization. So I was really relieved. I was freed up and immediately got calls about opportunities to start something of my own, to teach, to pull in, to do this.
Consulting work with marketing agencies. Yep. Holy cow.
It was a lot. It was a lot right in the beginning. And then once I got to the end of the summer, I was slowed down by COVID. And right. I loved being forced to be slowed down. I didn't know how to be at a slower pace. And what I started to embrace was, hey, this is actually probably normal. Mm-hmm. And I really had to think through how being in that toxic environment within leadership had me in the middle of a pandemic, had me dysregulated.
Yeah, that was not healthy for you.
No, it wasn't healthy. And of course, when you start to come down, you realize how the body has been compensating. So the beauty of like what has happened over the last year for me was I've gotten back to me, back to like a regular business pace, back to serving families, back to growing an agency. And I had moved to a new city. So a lot of people didn't know that. I moved to a whole nother state and city. So it gave me a chance to like settle in, which I hadn't had a chance to do before I became president. But I had a chance to like get settled in, and then also had a chance to regain health in a way that like had been really missing since 2020 or really since 2019, because my president year was crazy. And then as soon as I ended it, we went right into the pandemic. So, I think a lot of people met me And I experienced a lot of people in a highly dysregulated state, like not sleeping, working around the clock. And so I came down from that and had to like integrate like what's a normal work pace, um and also having to figure out what, because I could do so many things, so many opportunities were coming. I had to stop and say, well, what actually is my destiny? What is my passion? What do I truly want to do? Just because I can do it, should I do it? So it was great to actually be able to do the slide with you, because you understood it. You were experiencing it differently, but you also understood what we had just gone through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we kind of got to the anniversary date through different paths, but we got there still, you know, shining, basically.
Yeah, that was just a wondrous thing there with this whole thing happening, you know, because before all of this, you and I, we were well acquainted, but we weren't close. I mean, I admired you from afar. I met you on the board when I came in as the Northeast Regional Director. You were the Intercultural Director. We weren't close. We weren't even really like friends. We were more acquaintant. But now we have this great friendship, this great relationship that we did not have before. So I'm just grateful. Yeah, I'm glad it happened, because now we're super close. We're good friends with each other. We're there for each other. And, you know, I really appreciate who you are and your dedication to Black people and to, you know, Black women. And, you know, you stuck by me in a very precarious time that you didn't have to. You really didn't have to do that. But yeah, so we became, you know, good friends now, and, you know, have each other's back on things sincerely without a hidden agenda. And, you know, that's fine.
That part. Now we can look back and realize the interference was like, you know, that there was some heavy motivation of like, how can I hustle you? How can I get something out of you?
It really was. But, you know, DONA has a history of being chronically dysfunctional. When you train doula trainers who are not certified in childbirth education or lactation certified, and you put them in a training mode, and they profit and they move forward in this. But meanwhile, they really don't have the training background to do that training, but you put them in it. Or you put the Spanish speaking doula trainer in as a doula trainer, but she doesn't want to speak Spanish and she doesn't want to train in Spanish. So for years, DONA has really been moving on this dysfunctional train that they just didn't get off of it. They didn't want to get off of it because the dysfunction benefited some people, but it didn't benefit Black or BIPOC people. But, you know, it's really was something here. But, you know, with the past president, people don't understand this person really doesn't have the credentials of excellence, that bar was raised so high for us, but for this past president,
you already know I'm not even speaking on that, because and in fairness, because, you know, I feel like, well, I mean, that person is a big part of this experience, right?
A big part.
Because one of the things that kind of hit me later in this process was experiencing betrayal of a fellow Black woman who, you know, you're like, oh, we're in the trenches together. I'm going to pull you up. I'm going to give you skills and opportunities, and, you know, and it's the betrayal part is, I feel like, a big part of maturing.
Yeah.
And a public betrayal is really interesting to experience. And what I will say the hardest part about it was we were responsible for ushering a lot of Black birth workers into this work.
That's right.
And I mean thousands, right? Who were looking to us as leaders, because I had started training doulas in my president year. So not only am I your trainer, but I'm the president of this organization. We're maintaining space for them, like in social media groups and things like that, mentoring, offering support. And so for me, the biggest part of the betrayal, the hardest part of the betrayal, was watching them be so confused about a couple of things, like, who do we believe? Well, honey, I don't have a story to sell to you. I wasn't there. I'm the subject of the work, of the act. Right. I know what you know. So you decide who would you, I don't know, believe? I don't, it wasn't even like I was selling a story. So it's not like you have to believe me. I just experienced it, right? But it was like, who do you have loyalty to? Which I'm like, you don't have to choose. I said that to everyone the very same night. But like, who do you trust? Because it's really down to issue of trust. I trusted you to guide me. I trusted you. I chose this organization because you were the face of it. I trusted that you, when you said this organization was a safe space, and now look how they're treating you as a Black woman. That was the hardest part for me, was to watch people be really, really hurt as they witnessed the dismissal with no explanation. Yes. And they witnessed the betrayal, whether they acknowledge it as that or not. And the witnessing, so I was witnessing them witnessing.
Correct.
I had no answers. And also, when they came to me, I'm like, I'm not asking you to choose. You should go, like, get what you need to get from whomever. My door is still open. Nothing has shifted for me. I was just on vacation. I came back and everything got all cut off. I'm still who I am. I'm not shifting. I'm not changing. So it was very difficult to watch people try to figure out where they belonged in the space that we had created together. And, so I had to start creating spaces separately. But as I was creating those separate spaces, I also realized I was different. That some of the spaces, the qualities were not unique to me. They were unique to the other person. And so I had to start shedding that, right? Letting stuff go. It was a fascinating, I can look back now and be like, wow, like we all went through something. We were really in a really positive trajectory.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm really grateful that before it got too large, it failed. And it got to authenticity. Let me say that. Yeah. And so whoever authentically connected with that person, great. They went and they found still the work that they needed. And those who authentically connected with me and the work that I do have stayed and, remained. And what also came out of that was, because that person is such high energy and performance, I had taken on some of that, and I had to learn that either you're with me, because I'm not high energy performance. I'm serious like I am now. Like I'm like thoughtful, and I'm trying to think, I'm always thinking about the big picture. What's the next right move that brings us all forward? Not me, not the next hustle, not the next dollar, but like brings us all forward. And that work is a little slower and quieter. So I was actually worried, like, oh, I'm not showing up doing lives and da-da-da-da-da. And because that was a feature of the partnership that existed. And so I just had to this is a really good experience of me getting authentic. And me just being like, hey, who's with me? They're with me. If they're not, they're not. I'm okay, because I'm doing my own healing. I'm in my own process. And whatever I do, it has to be authentic to me and what God gives me to do in this work. So it's been an interesting year.
It's been a lot. I realized when we were dismissed, people were calling me. They were crying. They were very upset. They didn't understand what was happening. Not just because they voted, but they've been watching me over the years. I've been a doula for 9 years. And I didn't realize the enormity of how many people were watching or are watching me in the work that I do. And the fact that I'm doing it with integrity. When I flop, I flop. And when I'm flying, I fly. But, there's in between for me. And that, when I made the call that, hey, this organization is really being run by trainers, and the leadership has always been with trainers, and they do have a vested interest in making sure that their stuff is remaining a certain way. And us coming in as non-trainers, we were looking at things through a different lens. Didn't realize that so many people were watching the work that I do here in New York City, New Jersey, Connecticut, as far as being a birth doula, as far as doing activism work, as far as being a Black woman, as far as being a DONA Black doula. Oh my God. When I show up to, events here in New York, oh my God, here's that Black DONA doula. And I had to explain to people, I'm not here for DONA. I'm here for the Black doulas who need to see someone like me. Because as I said in my live last year, when we were gone, I made it very plain to the members, stay there. If that's going to get you into those hospitals to see those Black and brown families, hold on to that DONA certification.
Yep.
That's the only value it really has at this point. If it's going to get you through the door to see those Black and brown families, then please, because that's why I'm holding on to it.
Okay.
There's no other reason that I'm there. DONA is not doing anything else for me. I walked away from a Bali retreat for advanced doulas, and I made it very plain. What could you teach me here in advanced doula skills when I'm teaching advanced doula skills? Why not have a Black doula be one of your facilitators in Bali? No, we can't do that.
Oh my goodness. Why would we do that?
Why would you want to share the pot? Why would you want to share the wealth? You've been milking this cow that's been in a coma for almost 30 years, but you're still getting the milk from it. But, you know, that's not what they see, because their vision does not include Black and brown people, and that's fine. But I was really very moved and very touched by the amount of people that reached out and said, oh my God, Denise, I'm so sorry this happened. I've been following you. You're a good doula. I see the work that you're doing. You're always looking out for doulas. And that's just been my mission. That's been my calling, to look out, calling Kim James and saying, hey, can you put up a designation on Doula Match so the families can find Black and brown doulas? And all the other things that I've done that I don't even talk about, but doulas actually are benefiting from them. It's like, fine, you know, going up to the state and testifying before the Senate about the importance of what doulas have done in the pandemic and how we held the city together here in New York. The doulas did that. The doulas kept those babies fed with Pampers and donor milk and all kinds of stuff we were doing. So, you know, I've always been the person who's been there for the doulas. I have not been there for leadership or trainers, because to me, being a donor trainer, that was not really the top thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I know I could always train outside of DONA, and I'm doing exactly that right now.
Exactly. Well, the same, you know the story where I was given the ultimatum, either you're going to be a board member or you're going to be a trainer. And I chose to be a board member. Like that, like being a trainer, like
you would have never been given that ultimatum. You know that.
Yeah, but you know what? Freedom in that, honestly. It like, you don't even know, see, God is always still protecting, right? Like, yes. I didn't even know that was protection being given to me back in 2014.
There you go. There you go.
In such a nasty way. That person gave me, you know, an ultimatum. I chose with my heart, which was to lead.
Yes.
So that I could have a bigger impact on creating change. I felt like, oh, the trainer thing will come down the road. Not ever realizing it was never coming. And that's okay, because just like you, I'm now creating my own association, my own membership organization, where people, all these things that we were hoping to implement and that we wanted to see and that we need. A lot of us need a home. We need a professional organization where we feel honored, where we feel respected, where it is truly member-led.
Looks like us.
Looks like us, a variety of us, and also has a different level of mission. So me launching International Perinatal Professionals is about bringing perinatal professionals into the space besides doulas. Like there are a lot of people who impact this system change. And that's just, there's doctors, OBs, pelvic floor therapists, massage therapists. Anybody who touches a pregnant body sees the broken spaces in the system, and they're standing in the gap. Okay, well, let's get us all in a room so we can actually start creating policy change. So we can actually start looking at the policies with all these different points of view and actually creating something that is holistic, something that is healing, something that is redeeming, something that is safe, that prioritizes and centers birthing bodies. Let's actually get together and do it for real. And so, I think part of, like, you know, you say under pressure is where you see what people are made of. Well, pressure makes diamonds, pearls, all that good stuff, child. So this year has been quite amazing. I would say the best expression of what I experienced was expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah. And more of, I feel like an opening, like of authenticity. Like it was a space to say, show us who you really are, but show yourself first.
Exactly.
So it's been so good.
It's been very, very good.
It's been so good. And, you know, I just came off from talking, doing a Black maternal health talk for NAB, and, you know, serving on the NAB board, serving on the Iowa Black Doula Collective board, being able to move forward for us, for Black and Brown families, and specifically Black. Like I always say Black and Brown because there's an overlap in all of our experiences, right?
Sure.
And then there is a distinction. And so, I can take the work so far, and then I have to say, hey, this is now outside of my expertise, my experience.
Absolutely.
But a lot of times when you people just see us, they don't know what we are. They don't know where we're from, and because some of us are so brown that like is it crosses. But I love the work that I'm doing where it's like fully centered on Black birthing bodies.
Absolutely.
And looking at the policies and being fully in that work, being able to say, hey, like today, hey, I'm so freed up in my time that, yes, I just taught you about how to not let mistreatment go unchecked. And there's these processes. But you know what? Call me. I can help you get started because when
you did that, I'm like, no, don't put anything else.
I know, girl, because you know how much stuff I got to do. But I felt like that was my reasonable service to the people who actually had showed up on the screen.
It came from the heart. It came from the heart. That's what it sounded like.
And we're vulnerable. I asked, is there some mistreatment that hasn't gone unchecked? They were honest. And so it's like, okay, well, let me not just put you out there and like leave you hanging. Yes, I gave them some resources, but we're in community, right? Like some of us need a hand in the small of our back. Some of us need a nudge. And so I'm welcoming those calls. But that's now that my time is freed up, I can make those choices and I can make space for us. And so that's the gratitude I have for the release that happened on April 11th, 2022. Super happy. Super happy. What's funny is, my number is 2. So for that to be 4/11/22, I was like, oh, there go my tools. My tools are showing up for me.
Oh, man.
Even when I didn't know that was all happening.
Yeah. I knew things were coming down the pipe there, but I just didn't know how it was coming. Because, things were being said as president, when I would make statements, the bullies would come out and make these, these very methodical, one would say something, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. It was kind of like a gangbang situation they were doing here. Very predictable. White people are very predictable. And, it's like, well, here it comes. Here it comes. They're going to be frightened. They're going to be unsure. Is she safe? Is she reliable? Oh, I don't know. She's not safe for the organization. And now here comes the exodus. And it's not just us. This same thing has happened with other organizations. It's happened with ICANN. It's happened with Lamaze. It's happened with DONA. All of the major white-led organizations, when they have Black leaders, they tank every time.
And we should have I know we're planning on having a conversation with some of those leaders where we can call out the toxicity of some of these organizations.
I can't wait for that.
I know, it'll be great. But part of this is, I feel like even us having this conversation is like, this is not about them, first of all. This is about you and I, about like examples of how you can be betrayed in public by a best friend, by a person who sat at your table in your home, who you know things about, all of that. You can be betrayed for what? For nothing. And do it in a public way. And you can recover. Birth workers are being betrayed by other birth workers. People are scamming people. We just talked about how somebody copied words off of somebody's website that then somebody else, a Black doula, just did a post about that just earlier this week. Like, there are betrayals, there are people stealing, there are people hurting and creating harm. Just because we're birth workers, we're supposed to be lovely, amazing people. Some people, I'm like,
that's what I thought when I was coming.
I know. But you see how people operate. I was like, oh my God. Woo! She touches people. People are vulnerable to her. Like, that's incredible.
That's totally incredible.
It's incredible to me, but fine, whatever. I realize people put on airs, and it's easy to be deceived. It's easy to see what you want to see. And it's easy for people to decide you're an opportunity. And yes, that hurts. And but you can recover from that allow it to be a maturing experience, allow it to be a growth experience, and allow it to peel back some layers within you. And we're just an example of like, yeah, it happens and it can be for your good. You know, I love that. I love the saying, what the devil meant for evil, God meant for good. It is always true in my life. And so it's really, it's just, I can't say it. Oh, freeing is the best word. And what I love is, as you know, because over time, people ain't gonna keep their mouth shut. Over time, the truth will come out. Over time, the scheme will fall apart, because that's just, you know, you built the house on quicksand. Well, it'll fall. As the truth comes out, there'll be this opportunity for vindication. I don't have to say or do anything. I don't have to take the contract and go sue them for the money that is due to me.
Not enough. It's not enough.
It really isn't. It really isn't. It's not worth it, right? The time. But it also is just, okay, it'll come back to you. So I want to just, my thoughts are, you know what? You're not alone. Birth workers, a lot of stuff is happening. You're going to be betrayed by legislatures. People are going to say one thing and do another. As you're fighting for Black birthing rights, you're even in business in your community. Sometimes this can be a lonely road. It can feel violent. It can feel very unloving. But it also can be this, like, we have this shared experience. We bonded, we decided, we chose to support one another. We chose to support one another in the way that we could, while we were also having our own experience and being true to ourselves. And if you just stick with it, you can look back and see there are authentic people. There are people who are soldiers in the fight right alongside you. They're not afraid to be on the front lines, not afraid to get dirty with you for the greater good. And so I feel really good about what we've done. I feel really good about how we did it. So much of our journey was quiet and behind the scenes. Nobody saw it, but you and I know. I feel like, you know, there was not an expansive amount of talking negatively about people specifically.
Oh, no. We didn't. No.
Yeah, we're not spending our energy like that. We really decided that we were going to put it in God's hands, and that it must be for the best, and let's see what that best is. So we get to stand here today and see that between International Professionals, Perinatal Professionals Association, and Black Women Do VBAC already, because our time was freed up, because we were freed up, we were able to actually do work that impacts the greater good.
Exactly. God just wanted us to really keep our skills and these wonderful visions that he gave and gives us. He wanted us to do this work for us and not put it into an organization where there's no appreciation and there's no respect or value there with that. I'm very grateful to have been removed in that circumstance. And, you know, for the people who did the betrayal, you know, they're going to have to answer to that, because I gave genuinely. I prayed with some of these people, cried with them, helped them with their family situations. I was right there with these people in a very genuine way. And then when my mother died, one of them, you know, actually showed their true colors and really treated me very badly. And, you know, in advocating for myself and removing myself, I then became the pariah. Oh, how dare you advocate for yourself and tell me you're not going to put up with my bullshit? No, I'm not. So, you know, that's how things happen. But, you know, it's all good. Like I said, I am living my very best life. I'm going into my 60s and I love what I do. I love this work. I love creating and building forth. I just had a doula call me the other day. She says, you know, I love the fact, Denise, that you keep recreating yourself. You keep doing these different things and recreating yourself. And I'm like, well, you know, I came into this doula practice at 50. I didn't have a whole lot of time here, but I'm trying to make the most of the time and some really great connections. I have some beautiful connections out here with wonderful birth workers, and just, you know, I'm just so grateful that every time you and I talk, I'm always learning something somehow in our conversation. And it's just, that's just such a gift. It's like, you know, when I hang up, I'm like, you know, that was really good what she said. And I'm like writing it down or something, you know, it's like, that's really great. You know, that reciprocity of giving and understanding. And it's not about age. You know, I'm older than you, but I'm learning from you. It's like, are you kidding me? So, you know, that's what it's all about. And that's what women should be doing out here, is uplifting and learning from each other, rather than this whole tearing down and all this other stuff that other people like to live in, that behavior, in that lifestyle. That's just not me. I don't like living like that. I
Yeah,
like to
absolutely. I mean, I think I made some decisions right away that like whatever this experience is going to be, I'm choosing to be authentic.
Yeah,
I'm choosing to be transparent. If people ask me questions, I'm going to give them the answer that I
exactly.
have. And if I get more information, I'll toggle back and give them more. But I was going to be authentic to myself, transparent, and I wasn't going to limit myself because for me, once I was outside the organization, I was like, well, the truth is I know how to do it. That's where they fucked up. when you gave me the keys to the kingdom and I learned how to do it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it.
And you did it well. You did it well. You did it well for DONA for a long time. This organization that threw you under the bus, they're still benefiting off of your intellectual property. They still are. Just policies, workflows. I mean, so many things that they're benefiting off of what you created and gave for free.
I did. And that was the lesson. I was like, oh, why did I do all of this for free? I would never, ever do that again. You can't even, what people say, pick my brain. You can't even do that. You can't do nothing. Like, what was I thinking? But the beauty of it is God had a master plan, right? And so now there's this opportunity for me to take what I know, to build and to do it with ease. You know, that's my word from last year and for this year is to do it with ease because I'm doing it with people who want to work with me.
There you go.
People who have the same vision, the same needs, the same level of excellence, the same goals. And so, that was a big hump. I was like, I don't want to go back out front. I don't want to do an association.
You really didn't. You really did not.
Girl, I was like, I don't want to have a target on my back. I don't want nobody talking about me. I don't want nobody looking at me. I don't want anybody picking apart. And it was you and about 4 other people consistently engaged with me, helped me get over that hump. Like, no, I'm not doing anything else. I don't want to be out front. I don't want anybody looking at me. I don't know why, because girl, this is fabulous. I don't know why. What was I thinking? But I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm kind of not kidding. But it's about, for me, I just had to get strong again. That was just an example. I had that experience. I had some moments where it did beat me down. I was like, dang.
Of course, it's human nature.
Yeah.
But shame on them, because like I made it very plain when I was president, the way you treated and spoke to Ravae, that's not happening with me. No.
I allowed.
And shame on them for even doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
to serve. You were in a volunteer position at the time. Shame on them for behaving.
I have a high capacity for conflict, right? Because I'm not like, you throw a little something at me, we're in court. It's like, for me, I'm like, this is not, a lot of it wasn't personal for me until it was, right? Like this was personal. But a lot of it I could tolerate because I was like, okay, you just have to spend some time helping them understand the what and the why. And guess what? I'm done with that. As I grow up, I'm not doing a lot of negotiating with people. Like, I'm just like, everybody get ready, because this is what it is. And this is coming out of years of experience and lots of collaboration. You can't do an organization where your goal is to bring in multiple points of view and not be a natural collaborator. But there will be some things I will not tolerate. Disrespect will not be tolerated.
Exactly.
Discrimination will not be tolerated.
Exactly.
We will be having conversations that benefit everyone.
That's right.
And that's what I'm choosing to walk away from. I don't want to be a part of an organization where only one group of people benefit and their intentionality is to keep making money and to keep
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. There's no member benefit other than the name.
Nothing.
So I want you to have the name. I want you to have the legal support. I want you to have the real estate support. I want you to have the financial management support. I want you to have the support of an affinity group of peers regionally and racial, ethnically, or life experientially. I want you to have the benefit of being in a group, like a peer group with obstetricians and dentists, pediatric dentists and things like that, where you can figure out how can we grow in our region
That's right.
as
That's
people
right.
who see the broken parts of the system and want to grow it. So I'm not, but so the pettiness, the self-centeredness, none that has no space. We got bigger issues. We got bigger fish to fry, right?
Just downright nasty. Some of those people, and I don't say this word too often, they were pigs. And it's just like, ugh, how could you behave like that? And how was that behavior permissible all these years? These
Yeah.
people should have been escorted out of the organization without any hesitation, because of the toxicity that they maintain in this organization is its downfall and putting them into obscurity. It
I
really
know. And
is.
so when you say that, so many people are like, but if it was that, why did you stay? And I'm like, why do you stay in corporate America? A lot of times it's because you're doing your part, you're making your money, and you have a level of tolerance for it.
Yes.
And also, for me, the biggest was I believe I could be a part of the change.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
wanted to really do that. I wanted to contribute to that change. I really wanted to do.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, when I had to do the calculations, I was like, oh, that was 7 years of work. And the 7 keeps coming up.
I
It
know.
was technically 8, but I had a year off the board, right?
Right, right,
So the
right.
7 years of immersion that I'm going to use it for good. My full heart and intention is to use it for good. I'm so grateful for the growth. I'm so grateful to know I can play with the big girls, right?
Oh yeah.
Like some people don't even see themselves to the end of, I know I am the big girl. Okay. And I know my capacity for influence and change. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
super excited for it to be coming off the ground. I'm super excited for Black Women Do VBAC. I can't wait to take the class, take my test. I want to be endorsed. I want all of that. And
Yeah.
for all the other classes that you're doing, life is good.
Yeah, life is very good. Black
Yeah.
women, Black birth deserve Black doulas, Black and brown doulas who are skilled and supported to support these births. I'm really, really proud to be able to do that work. I'm really, really happy that I'm in this place. What I'm really happy about is I didn't back down. In my leadership with DONA, I
No,
did
you
not
didn't.
back down. I stayed right there, and I went up against some really nasty people and nasty things and nasty
Yeah.
agendas and things. And I stood my ground on what is right and what the members needed and why I was there. I did not put my personal agenda forward. As a matter of fact, I was willing to give DONA all of this stuff that I'm
I
doing now.
know.
God said, Denise, no, you're doing this for you. You're not doing this for them. You're doing it for you. I was going to give them all of this stuff.
Right. But it probably wouldn't have, right. And it probably wouldn't have been, the opportunity now is for it to be wide received, well received, and to be super impactful because the package it gets delivered in matters,
It does.
Yeah, it matters.
It does. And what they don't realize is that you're going into these conversations with senators, politicians, leaders, community stakeholders, and people are saying, oh, well, we would love to have you here. But do you want us to use the DONA brand to identify you? And my first answer is no. I don't want you to use that to identify me because that's not who I am. So they're pushing themselves into obscurity because these people who are in leadership positions, who are out there doing this work, they are asking. They're not just automatically putting me in the DONA brand out there on programs and speaking it. They're like, do you want to use the DONA logo? I'm like, no, I don't. No, I don't.
No, I'm a professional birth doula from IPP, honey.
Yeah, I have something else here. I don't need to do that. And I'm going on about my business with that. So what they don't realize is they're not at the table. For that, they haven't done a survey in their membership for years. They're missing a lot of money and dollars on grant funding in order to even give statistics on what they can do and what they want to do. So they're missing out on a lot of things because they're focused on that dead cow on the ground that they're still tapping and getting milk from. That's what that is.
And they're actually the way they're structured, they're not structured to actually benefit from grant money because there's no,
but they could do other funding.
And we ain't got to give them no ideas. We're gonna keep them far.
Exactly. Right. There's other things they can do, but I'm not gonna
Yeah, girl.
But it's really a shame that they really missed out on so much. And as I said before, as president, I will say it again, DONA has some of the most talented doulas I've ever met. And these people are out here doing some amazingly great things. And they've got some doulas in there that are really shitty. So you've got two extremes here, but they're really, really talented people. And then you've got the other ones who are just, They don't even need to be a part of the organization, but white entitlements kept them there. So
right. And I think that there's a difference. I think people can be amazing birth workers, like doulas, and not be great business people or collaborators or like kind-hearted, good-hearted, aligned people. And I saw that dichotomy quite a lot. And so it is what it is. But I felt like it was super important for us to like have this conversation since the disruption or eruption or the freeing happened a year ago yesterday, like on the first day of Black Maternal Health Week. And we're Black maternal health leaders, we're birth worker leaders, we're, you know, social workers, we're lawyers, we're leaders, period. And so I think it's important for people to get a chance to see the evolution, to see how things shift. People often hear about the thing, they're gossiping. Your phone was ringing, people were texting me, what happened? We don't know what happened, but we can tell you what has happened since then.
Yes.
I got the tea on that. Okay. I got the whole story on that. Yes. And it's been amazing. You see, do you see this flourishing? It is, honey, girl, child.
Do I look like I'm hitting 60? No.
No, you don't. You don't. I'm gonna have to get with this skincare plan you got going on, child. But yeah, like life can be rough and rocky as you're walking in your purpose. And you can let those eruptions catapult you to the next level. And that's what we've done. So I hope that people tune in, get registered for Black Women Do VBAC. There'll be lots of offerings. I hope people check out if you're looking for a place to be, have a membership where you can get continuing education, where you can get camaraderie and connection, and where you can be a part of the system change. Look at IPP. We'll be launching our website soon so that you can have a space where you can grow as a birth worker. We're committed to it. So very excited. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm gonna have to get on the website, take my quiz for Black Women Do VBAC because
you get 8 contact hours. You know, I apply 8 contact hours. That's great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I need the reminders. I need the skills. So many of my clients are VBACing. And, you know, for me, I know it's so much of a mindset, but what else is it? You know, as a 20-year vet, I'm sure you are about to teach me some things I don't know or I forgot. So I'm looking forward to it so that my clients can benefit.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful. I had my first cohort from people from Washington State all the way back here to New York City, and in between in the Midwest, they came in and took the class. They really enjoyed it. So I'm really appreciative because Black women do have the highest statistics when it comes to C-section, and they have the lowest outcomes for VBAC because they're simply not in the know. So being a VBAC and C-section doula, now you can actually empower these families and getting them to the births that really they can be very proud of and own. If it's a surgical birth, that's what your body could do. Let's own it. If it's a VBAC, let's do that.
I just had a thought about systems change. The VBAC calculator, when you just said like Black women, higher, because when we saw that in New Amsterdam, we were watching New Amsterdam, how that factor of being Black had that Black birthing doctor.
Right.
Her bishop score was thrown off.
Very low. Her VBAC score was very low. But as soon as they took her race out, the score went up and she had a vaginal birth. Boom.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe our very first advocacy work project might be on this. It'll collaborate with you on the VBAC, the bishop score.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of work done. There's a lot of work. My biggest thing I'm telling all the leaders, birth leaders now, please speak with your local government to change the postpartum care with the insurance companies to allow Black and brown moms to have a 2-week postpartum follow-up, not a 6 to 8 week.
Oh, you know, I'm with it. Yes.
That's big. That's big. That's really
huge.
Big.
It's huge because we have the research that backs it up that says we lose the most Black moms and babies in the first 42 days post-birth. By then, they haven't even seen it. They haven't even made it to their 6-week checkup. So you're absolutely right about how many things go wrong, critically wrong in those first few weeks.
That's what I'm pushing for in New York.
We can't even have this little conversation without realizing, hey, let's do some collaboration. So honestly, more work.
More work.
No, it's okay though. It's good. Like we say, like good trouble, right? Like it's good
trouble.
Yeah. It's really good. Okay, everybody. Well, we appreciate you for hanging with us. That was like, I don't know, like 2 hours. I have to look and see, but we hope that you got something out of it, but mostly the joy, the restoration, the growth, And the authenticity, like we're here, we're thriving. We didn't just survive, we thrive. And just like we're trying to get our Black moms and babies, we don't want them just surviving, we want them thriving. So we went through our own metamorphosis, our own rebirth, and we're right where we want all of you to be, but all of our families to be. So thank you for connecting with us. We look forward to the next chat. We have to see if we can get everybody together for that Black leaders and
that's happening. That's happening.
Okay, that's the next one.
Oh, yeah,
all right, have a good one, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care.